I have 4 o'clock.
Okay, I'm going to call the special council meeting of Thursday, April 22nd to order. I have got a new thing we're going to do at the meetings is read a little COVID-19 deal. The city is collecting contact information for each person at this meeting so that if we learn that an attendee tests positive for COVID-19, we can reach out to each person and let them know. If you test positive after this meeting, please contact City Hall. Your name will not be released to the public. Okay, now the first order of business is to close the meeting to discuss a land use issue. So I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Go ahead, Dave.
Motion. Second.
Yes.
Second by Herzog. Yep.
Dave first.
First, second. Yep.
I'll take roll call. Marcia Ziebert-Walls.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
Yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Can't hear you, John.
Yes.
I see. I can read your lips, but
Can you hear me now?
no.
Is there anything that you all are doing that you could make me hear?
Give us some sign language, John. All right, good. He's good to go.
Okay.
And you can hear.
All right, meeting closed. So April 22nd. First thing in order is to approve resolution accepting donations. We have donations here for $8,000 from the Cross Lake Ideal Lions Club to the police department for protective gear and a conference table. And then there is another donation from the Pell Foundation for $38.99 for garden stakes. So do we have a motion to approve that?
Sure, I'll make a motion. We accept gladly the donation of $8,000 from Cross Lake Ideal Lions for police department for protective gear and a conference table, and from the PAL Foundation for $38.99 for garden stakes. I assume that's at the community center, right? So,
I'll second it.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp.
yes.
John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert-Walls.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Has anybody contacted Pam, or do we need to?
I don't have her number.
I don't have my phone. Graves?
I have Pam's phone if you need me to call.
I can text them.
Okay, next on the agenda is approve bills for payment. And I guess, Shar, the only one I'd like to question, or not question, but have a copy of is that Johnson Killen, the attorney bill.
You have mail in your basket.
Oh, do I? Okay. Okay. Other than that, anybody else have any other questions for the bills for approval?
I move we approve the bills for, that we have received as submitted.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Dave Nevin.
Yes.
Dave Schrupp. Yes. John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Ziebert-Walls.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, number 5 is discuss assignments, designation of funds, and reallocation of budget items. So I guess, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
You'll need to tell me what you want to talk about. The only thing I have to talk about on this is the assignments of fund balance for that match up with the audit.
Okay, well, Marcia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I guess I got some budget reallocations that I think the city council should consider. At the last meeting, you approved $15,000 for a seasonal worker for parks and the cemetery. That's got to come from somewhere. And we're already over budget in attorney fees, labor. I think we're close to a $12,000 deficit. So I'm asking the city council for ways to fund those developments. I would say you're going to probably need the way things are going and union contracts and all the labor stuff, you're probably, my opinion, you're probably looking at another $45,000. You've already used, you're at a deficit, January, February, March, you're already 12,000 behind. So I was looking at the budget, and I would like to suggest taking 35,000 out of the Park and Rec Community Center parking lot capital outlay, 35,000, because you're not going to do roads this year anyway, and move it to the following year. And we'll probably need another 25,000 from somewhere. I don't know if this 8,000 that we just got donated to the police department, but there's a possibility of taking 25,000 out of the police capital outlay, and that would give you a zero effect in the budget. You'd be taking 60,000 from Park and Rec and police and putting it in Park and Rec seasonal and attorney fees labor, because I think you're going to need to reallocate budget figures for attorney fees, no doubt.
Okay, Mike?
I'm going to point, that's a good way to do it. You can, that's one option. There is another option for you if you want to just kind of keep track of that now and then see how it comes out once you know what those numbers are. One thing you could do is, if you remember back in December when we did the budget, you know, we built a little bit of a cushion in here because we took a lot of things out. And we've got about $100,000 right here to offset some of those, oops, we didn't budget for that thing. You can do it that way, or you can do it like you're doing, but either way is going to work.
I think the way we're doing, or I'm suggesting, is a clear picture of where we're taking from the budget line item and putting it somewhere else in the budget.
Sure. One thing I would caution you though with the parks is the way that the past councils have handled the park is if we budgeted for an item and we didn't do it, if it was for a capital item, the park was allowed since about 2017, I believe, to carry those budget dollars over to the next year, so they wouldn't lose them. So if you're going to do that, I would ask you to include in your motion that you'll rebudget those dollars or find a mechanism so the park doesn't get penalized for it.
Well, we can visit that in the 2022 budget.
All right.
What are the issues for the park if we take that money out?
There are none.
So for TJ, what is it you can't do?
So is there a line item that we could discuss in the budget? Is this in his capital budget that you're
Yeah.
looking at?
Yes, the community, the Park and Rec has the community center parking lot for $35,000. Now, you're not doing road projects this year. There'd be really no reason to do that parking lot unless you're doing road projects to get a good bid.
Is this in
And,
Public Works budget or is this in my budget? Is this in Public Works budget or is this?
Yes, it's in the
Public Works.
community. It's in the community center. According to this budget we adopted, there was a $35,000 parking lot in there. Let me see if I can find it here.
Well, there's a number, it's a replace Moore deck for 35, that's the 2020 budget.
Park and Rec,
And
right
then it was-
here
what-
on page,
27.
27?
it has $35,000
I
for
see. Yes, I
parking
see.
lot upgrades.
Did that
That's-
drive up?
That's
off
to
the line?
replace the tractor loader.
No, she's way down on the page, CJ.
Whoops, I'm sorry. I'm off a line.
Oh, is it off the line?
It's
Yep.
not, it's a replace tractor loader.
Yep. And we have
I'm
since
sorry.
purchased that one.
You already did that?
Correct. You guys
I
approved
was
that
off.
one.
I thought that was the parking lot. I guess I should use a ruler. Well, we're gonna have to find $60,000 though.
So could I make a recommendation? That we, and I started with the capital budget, just looking, because that's where the big things are. Can we go through this and then make a list of the things where we haven't spent money or could not spend the money that we levied. And then when we get all done, we'll look at that list and try to decide which items are more, where are we in total? Because it might come to the point where we still have to take cash from the bank that we've been trying to hang on to.
It would be
As an example, to the park lawn mowing guy and the cemetery guy, we have $5,000 in the cemetery for irrigation. Why don't we take that $5,000 and use it to pay some of the salary for this part-time employee this summer instead of an irrigation system? That's, if
Yeah,
we
but
could
we
make a
need, we
list.
need 15,000.
Right, but
But it
we'll
would
just
put
keep
it in.
looking here and see what we can come up with in total, see?
It would
then
be
maybe-
nice if everyone had a copy so that we can all be looking at the same thing.
Oh,
Don't
I've
you
got one
think?
That's
here.
I mean,
Budget?
Aaron, do you have anything?
No,
I have nothing. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I can list them.
Why don't I do this? I mean, I didn't know
Well-
what you were going to talk about today.
Well, but
So what I did is I went,
I like what Charlie said.
COVID? Uh-oh.
You all right?
Yep.
so what I did is I keep track of where we're at with capital outlay, because that's where all the big dollars are. So I'll go ahead and pass out where we're at through the end of last month. Now, we're almost through April, and we can update this again, but it gives you, an idea where we're at with each department on capital outlay. So if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to
Yeah,
pass
that'd
it
be a
out.
good, yeah.
What about in Public Works, the patch trailer or whatever? Ted, do you have one, or do you need one? I know it's budgeted for, but maybe we could find it there.
I think we should start up front and go down through this thing and see where, like, page 1. Is it
We're
okay
just
if I
looking.
talk? Page 1 is,
And John, does it not have anything? John, you don't have anything to look at, do you?
I actually don't. I've looked in the past, but
Okay.
Here, Ted? I believe she's talking about page 1 right here.
Aaron needs one.
No, I've got one.
Oh,
That
you've
was
got
an extra one.
Okay,
That was an extra.
okay.
so what I'm saying here is page 1 under Department 41,400, we budgeted $4,000 and some change for computer equipment. We haven't spent it yet according to this unless there's a lag here. So the question would be, do we need to buy computers this year, excuse me, that's yes or no? And
Yep.
I guess the only one that can we wait a year? Those are the kind of questions we.
Right,
gotta go
and
through.
I was anticipating
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And so that's why I did this, so I could,
Yeah.
and we've been talking with staff to say, where are you at with your budget? What have you got left?
yep, good.
What are the plans to spend? Now, I know, Ted, you just bought a tamper. That's not reflected in here. It'll come through in April. But I can speak to administration and planning and zoning. We have 3 computers that are up for replacement. One is up at the front. Now that we figured out how we want to do that. And then we have a laptop and a desktop that we need to be replaced between those 2 departments. That's what those are intended for. In general government, that next category down on the bottom of that first page, we've still got almost $500,000 to go on what we're planning to spend on wrapping up the fire hall remodel. We're still waiting for high tech for final numbers so we can figure out what those numbers are. If we turn the page to page 2, on there where it says police administration, we have a budget of $112,835. We've spent $51,000 to date. I know Eric is looking to replace cameras. Eric? He's got about $30,000 for that. And then when we did the budget we amortized what we would need in the future for squad cars, because every so often, we're gonna have to buy 2 cars in 1 year instead of 1. We were trying to level load the budget for that. So,
So should we do one section at a time?
That's what I'd say.
yeah,
So what are you taking out of the general government? Are you taking out the computer equipment then, the 4,000?
I would say no. We would probably go to 2 and not replace a laptop. We don't have cost information on that. We were just kind of, once we got planning and zoning and admin set up, we actually need to replace a computer up on the front screen and add another one, and then replace Cheryl's. Those were the 3 we were looking at.
So we can cut the computer equipment in half between administration and planning and zoning?
I don't have bids on the replacement equipment, so I can't answer that.
So let's see, how do we move?
Well,
So maybe we could, I hate to take away stuff, but it's, we're trying to look, if the computer craps out, we're gonna have to buy a new one, right?
Yep.
That's kind of the way this is, but should we look at this and say, we have maybe half to what you were saying, 4,682 in admin and 4,682. Maybe we would leave them with 4,682 and take the other 4,682 and start making a list of what we could avoid spending on.
I would agree with that.
It's, it's hard on some of these
Yep.
versus a road or, a water truck or something like that, so.
If I can,
Sure, yeah.
I just bought 2.
You use the microphone.
What's that?
We're recording this.
Just for the record, I just bought 2 new computers for the police department, and those came to $3,694, and that was without one of them having a screen, so a monitor. So, I mean, you're getting close to $4,000 for 2 computers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to run, and one of them would be one you'd be looking at.
So you're looking
That
at
was for John to
37,800.
look at? Because he doesn't have a copy.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't have it.
So are we in agreement that it's 4682 we're taking out of the general and the planning and zoning?
Well, I thought we were going to make a list and then look
Yeah,
and see
then
what we
just see
have.
what we
Well, I
can.
mean, to get it on the list, okay?
Yeah, well, let's just try it. Let's just maybe right over on the side, so we'll,
So-
one of these will go away.
So then on the next page, the squad vehicles, can we reduce that down to 25? Or I mean, take 25 out of there?
Is that 28 for build up for a new squad that, then you have to buy 2? Is that what that is?
I think what I did with that, when I priced it out with the cameras, I included 1 camera in that new squad car. And then the other 5 were in the Capitol. That new squad is set up for the new camera. So it's just in May, June, when they come out with the new platform for the new cameras, WatchGuard cameras, that's when we were gonna order them and put them in. That was the plan. So, I mean, we're looking probably close to about 5, I would guess,
That you need?
that I'll need in that for the new squad setup.
And that 5 is out of the 28, am I?
Right.
Okay.
We could
So-
take 20 out of there then,
You can, yeah, well, you can do whatever you want.
yeah.
But remember that, we'll have another 120, 130, 140,000 whenever it comes along in 5 years when we have to buy the 2 squads again, so.
Why don't we skip this police for now?
Why don't we just put down the 20,000 and we can come back to it if we find more?
When we're done, we're gonna have to do all of them, Dave.
Okay, that's true. Okay, so maybe we're by 20K. Doesn't leave much. Fire administration got the truck. I'm on page 3.
So, Chip, is there something we can take out of your budget?
My capital outlay is $18,000, so, probably not, because we don't know when I need something, if we wreck equipment, every year I don't know.
All right, I'll agree to skip that one. Let's go to public works.
Well, yeah, can I ask Chip a question?
Sure, yeah.
The hose equipment that I'm looking at here looks like it's about $5,000, I'm using a round number. Is that new equipment for the new truck? That's replacement.
The $5,000 for hose and equipment, that is for replacing hose that may fail. You have to get it tested every year.
Okay,
And the last couple of years, that's what we've been averaging.
and that's what you've been spending? Okay,
Yeah.
well, that answered my question, thank you.
So should we move on?
Public Works?
Yep, there we go.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
this is the one for Public Works. The first one is as far as our joint maintenance facility. And we had budgeted $58,500 this year. And the county had the same amount budgeted. They have reallocated their funds and they only have 20 to spend. So our budget could be reduced. Where you reduce it down to, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see 25 left in there so I could cover what we're going to do together, plus anything else that comes up, but,
That's a fair offer.
I mean, you got $30,000 almost you could have there.
You really don't want to spend more than they do anyway. You want to go in.
No, we try to,
equal each year.
it's what they're doing, we're going to do is,
So they're at what, 28?
they're going to do 20,000
Oh,
in their
20.
budget and 20 in ours, is what we were planning now. This came up after we'd already gone through the budget process that they had got orders to cut everything. So we have needs of about 25 on my side and about 25 on their side. We had 58,500 budgeted, so.
So we can get 23 there.
What, yeah, why don't we take 25 out of there? We're still over.
Well, do you know what of these items you're gonna need? Like, where's the damn ruler? I'm sorry, where's the ruler? You got temp controls for 10,000. Can you get by another year?
Just a second here, let me get on the right, I can tell you which line item we're. I think the temp controls is one of them that was getting cut.
So,
And then the brine unit that you see there on the bottom,
yep,
the county is doing that out of their own. They're going to a different system.
I'm not picking up on it.
containment brine, you mean?
Yeah, the brine system that you see on the bottom there, they're doing something on their own this year, at their own costs.
Okay.
So you could take $7,500 out, is what you're saying?
Okay. How about cleaning the ducts?
How about
That's,
that lighting?
what's that?
The lighting?
That's on hold again too. They just didn't have the money. Basically what they're looking at is the card access, and that was taken pretty close to the $20,000. And this doesn't reflect that, but they just gotten a quote on that.
So the
But what
lighting
you're-
would be
what
another
you-
10.
What's that?
The lighting would be another 10.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's put on hold until in the following year, so.
So right there, you've got 27.5.
Yeah, so you're comfortable if we changed it to 25,000, the budget?
I think we'd be pretty close to making it doing fine this year.
Which leaves us with getting back, what, 36?
31.5, right?
I think he was talking about out of the 56.5, take 30 and leave him with the 26.5.
That's kind of what I'd like to see, but
That's, and I see that as good.
Yeah, or we could do it the other way too.
either way.
Okay, we're gonna get 26.5. We're gonna just put 26.5 as a number there.
That's what you're taking, is 26.5?
Yeah,
27.
that's what we can use for something else. So we're gonna remove it, okay?
And then under equipment, I have 120,000 that's budgeted. And with the hot box, the dozer, the packer, and renting the shouldering machine, I'm at about $65,000 that I can account for this year. So, but the things that are unknown is, we have more class 5 to buy, we have more asphalt for patching, we have some dirt to buy for the shouldering. And I was looking to put a computer in the break room area for the guys, so they're not using mine.
What page are you on?
I would be on the bottom of page 4,
Okay.
Right
my capital.
So
Did you
have three-
replace the sweeper?
That was one of the items that was, we decided not to do in the past because the sweeper, the brand of the sweeper that's out there right now is terrible, and ours is much better and better shape, and we were not gonna do that. So basically, it's
Did you buy a patch trailer then, or are you planning?
no, that's the hot box for $35,000. That would be
Oh.
one of the capital items that we'd be doing this year. It would be capital, it'd be a hot box for $35,000.
Okay, hold on.
So we can take 10,000 off of there?
Because you had 45 in here, unless there's
Right.
something that goes with it.
No, that's everything with it. Then there was a dozer blade for doing the leveling and the grading of the ditches,
Those are.
and that was for $5,350. And then the packer to pack the shoulders was another $92.50. And the rental of the shouldering machine for a month's time is $61.80, and that's what I was included in there.
So what does that add up to?
$55,780. Mike mentioned that I had a power tamper that we purchased, and that would be out of capital. That was under the miscellaneous at the top. That was another $3,000 we've already spent.
So that leaves us with about $65,000? I guess you had 120?
Can I go through my whole capital here and then
Yeah,
I'll tell you what
Yep,
I got in the end? Okay, chip sealing, we budgeted 18,000. That's on the next page or the page after that.
yep.
That's about 16.5 is what, if I remember right, that came back from the county charter, real close to that. The cemetery, we had 5,000 that was budgeted.
Hold on, where's that?
Cemetery would be in the one of the following pages under
Be on
Public
page
Works.
7.
Okay, hold on.
So that 5,000 in cemetery, what that was for the irrigation?
Your cemetery's on the bottom of page 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under striping, and that's where we do all the striping on the roads, we had 16,000 budgeted, and the number looks like as I need 25 to do everything that needs to be done this year. So I'm short there.
What page is that?
Yeah.
Help me out.
You're losing us, Ted.
I'm sorry, I'll
I'm
catch you
looking
back
for
up.
striping, but I'm not finding it.
Ted, we usually don't put striping in capital.
It's under my general budget.
It's under your general operating budget.
In my general operating budget is where that one is.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
But you need more.
I need more there. That we're
So-
short, so we need more.
How much more do you need?
Well, I got 16, I think we need 25 is what the bid has come in at, so,
9 short.
yeah.
Okay, so from the 36.5 back on 4300 Public Works General, that should be dropped by 95.
Okay, let me finish. So I have one more item here, and I'll get to my point. Crack ceiling, we had 40,000 budgeted, and I have a quote that has two parts to it. A primary area of town and a secondary area of town. And they came in at 40,000 for the primary and 30 for the other. So budgeted for 2021, I have $257,500. And if you add up all my capital, it comes into $201,500. So that's taking care of all the striping. That gives you 56,000 that I don't have accounted for right now. That would be out of Public Works.
So how much are we gaining from Public Works?
You got budgeted,
Yeah.
you got 257,500. All those items we talked about,
Yep.
okay? The needs and the overages come in at $201,500. So that's a difference of $56,000.
that, I'm not saying is excess, but could be considered excess.
Could be used by the council for something else.
Okay,
That would cover
yeah,
what we
does
need.
does that consider what your needs are for striping, that additional
Yes,
money?
yes, ma'am.
That's
That's part of
considered in
it.
there, because we don't want
Does that include the joint facility?
Yes, all the things I just talked about,
So
the
that
shop.
26.5 then is off.
Yeah, the shop, the equipment, the chip sealing, cemetery striping and crack sealing, all adds up to $257,500. And if you take off the needs or the equipment that we wish to do, it comes up to $201,500. So that gives you $56,000.
Okay, we've got a difference on Park and Rec, that employee of 10,000. Is that included here?
No,
So we would need to subtract 10,000 from that 56. Am I hearing right?
10 or 15.
to, yeah,
Well, we have 5 on the irrigation side. But
we have what?
so I gotta bring that up.
No, the cemetery is included in that 56.
I included, like I said, the shop, all of my equipment that we're talking about, that's the chip sealing, which is already under contract with the county, the cemetery, striping, and crack sealing comes in at we budgeted $257,500. And I'm accounting for $201,500 in my to use this year. I have 56,000 that's not. One thing I have to add is the helipad at the fire hall has to be moved. It's too close to the building. It needs to be reclaimed. It's got to be moved.
what is it?
The helipad,
Oh, okay.
the helicopter pad.
Yeah, yeah.
I do not have that in my budget. I wasn't planning on it, so I don't know where that's going to come from. Yeah.
Oh, you're not,
And we don't have a cost.
you're
for
not
that,
doing
do we?
blacktop or anything, you're just
No.
repainting
We're
it?
just repainting, but we have not accounted for that
Okay.
1,000 or 1,500 that would be, so.
So Ted, on the cemetery, does it include 5,000 or 20,000?
There was 5,000 that was budgeted,
Right.
and I have nothing in because I was assuming that was going to be used for the employee, so I just didn't get anything.
But is the 15 that we included for the employee, is that in your budget?
No,
or we
no,
still gotta
I did
find-
not account for that.
So we still gotta find.
So that 15 could come out of the 56,000 that's left if you want.
Right.
Actually, is it 15 or is it 10?
Well, I don't know.
Because the 5,000.
We approved 15 at the meeting.
So we're going
But
to
you
go through all
still-
this and see what we get a total of, and then we'll figure out.
Where we want to
But
go with it.
You can't use 5,000 of that in wages because you still have equipment that you're using out there and gas.
He had
and-
5,000 in the,
Yeah,
for
I'm just-
irrigation. And I thought we had said we'd move that 5,000 to salary.
5,000 from where? I'm sorry.
Irrigation for the cemetery.
Well, that's
Yeah, that
the,
was a suggestion,
Yeah,
you know, that we could, if
Yeah.
we're not going to
But the 15,000 is for wages.
Yes.
So you would need something else besides the 15,000 in cemetery, don't you? Don't you need that money for,
I'm hoping that, you know, there's dirt to buy to fix around the headstones. There's gravel to be bought for the shouldering that's going on. There's some asphalt for patching.
yeah.
I
so-
was hoping that the whole 56, you're not gonna grab the whole thing, you're gonna leave me something, but
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get to, Caroline.
and then the other thing is we sold the dump truck and that other pickup, there's another 40,400, but
So Ted, I gotta ask you, on the patching of asphalt, is it a value to buy that equipment and do it yourself, or could we just hire that out?
it's gonna cost you about 3 times as much we've found in the past to have somebody else do it.
Have somebody else do it?
Yeah,
Really?
because they get mobilization on every patch they go to, you get a mobilization charge. And that's usually $500 a patch. Pretty common.
Okay, so we've got 56,000 there that we need to turn some of that back to Ted so he can maneuver.
So you're short then?
No, I'm over 56,000. I'm not accounting for 56,000 in my budget. From where we thought we would be this year to where I'm actually coming out,
You're short.
I got $56,000 that you guys could reallocate someplace else, but I'm asking you, don't take it all from me. Leave me enough for the buying the,
Could take maybe 40.
leave me the material, leave me 15,000 to buy materials.
Oh, okay. And that, you started when you were talking about joint maintenance at 26.5?
Yeah, all of those things, that's what it adds up to.
And then you had some money left over from when you bought the hot box? Well, okay. It was kind of confusing. I couldn't find the striping in here.
that's operational.
That's in my operational budget.
Oh, it's not on here. Okay.
It's a different line item, different place.
So to summarize, if you don't get the details, we'll be lost here. So-
We have
so-
4682 in general and planning and zoning. 20 in police.
I'm just writing them on the pages here, so we can probably, so how much, Dave, did we say we were gonna leave him?
Well, take 40, leave them 16.
Okay, so we can get 40 here, 40K, out of all of his public works budgets.
And like I said, you have additionally, you have the sale of the truck and the
Oh, plus
And the-
the truck?
truck and the pickup, you have another $40,400 there.
40,400?
400, yes.
Good
But
job.
we need to add to your striping in the operational.
We need,
From this
yeah, I
capital
need,
budget.
that's part of what I was hoping of it.
Yeah.
It's either gonna come out of CHIPS or mine. I gotta get that other money someplace.
That 16 or 15,000 should hopefully
I would hope so.
cover that.
So the consensus is to take 40,000 from Ted's Public Works and cemetery accounts.
Ted, yeah, I think Ted is projecting that he could, if he does all the things he has done and moves ahead with whatever the straight, all that, you'll have a contribution that you could give back 40,000. You'd be comfortable with that, right?
Yes, yes,
That's
sir.
okay. Plus the 40,400 for the truck.
Which gives us 80,000 to
80,
work
there you go, 80,000, so, okay.
with. Those two.
So let me ask you a question here, because I guess I'll just say I'm just not an accountant, but I did talk to Mike. The money for the clarifiers and the control cabinets,
Yep,
now those things are supposed to be paid out of the operating funds, Mike, is that? I'm just trying to get the nomenclature, and that would be the money that we would get every month from users?
Correct.
Okay, so, and we don't get enough money to make it pay those bills. So how do we get the money? Can you legally levy that stuff, or can't you? I don't know.
So can't we put the 40,000 or the 50,000 you got in equipment into the sewer fund? And didn't we already say 150 of the reserves is going in the sewer fund?
Well, we don't
No.
that stuff wasn't levied. The money for that stuff that's my understanding,
I
wasn't,
know,
I went
but
through.
when we talked about this before, the 150,000 was gonna come out we wanted to designate it for the sewer fund, and I think you had said, well, it's in the reserves, so, you know. And then we should look at that ARP, the first half, we're getting 270,000, that should go to the sewer fund. We don't need it anywhere else.
Well,
Council, the other thing to remember is you have authorized some engineering at the treatment plant with doing the clarifiers. So there's other things that you've authorized
yeah,
and
right.
that we're probably going to be over in the operating, so.
I had a good talk with Ted, and we talked about like biosolids, but I won't get into that. But I think that, and I'll just put you on the spot, you think you could get by if we put money in the budget for your lift station control cabinets? Do you think you can take that on next year and not spend any money on it this year? Limp by with the electricians?
That is the plan. We'll work with electricians. We'll keep
Okay.
things going the way they are, the way we have.
Right.
We'll be buying parts and ghosting them together, but we'll get it done.
Okay, so, and can we levy that then? Mike, I don't know,
Well, if we're doing it this year, it's too late to levy for it.
I don't believe we.
Is the
we didn't-
clarifiers 400,000?
Closer to 500,000.
500,000, okay.
So I'm gonna address two issues. One is how the money flows in the sewer fund, so everybody understands that.
Yeah, that would be.
And the
a good-
second one is I've got some updated information on the funds we were allocated, so everybody understands that too. So I'm going back to our original budget that we looked at, and I'm just going to talk about the far right two columns. When we look at the sewer fund, the only levy that's going into the sewer fund that we certify a levy for is for debt service. That's it.
Okay,
Okay? What we do on the sewer fund is we try to figure out what we're going to do during the year. Now, a lot of things happen in the sewer fund. We get connection charges for new projects. And sometimes we know there's a large project coming on, like Whitefish at the Lakes or across the street, Sundance Ridge or something like that. We can predict those things, but we don't always know what we're going to get. So we budget conservatively on there. The funds we get for those connection charges, we use for the operations, because the theory is we've already paid for the ability to do that. We're just recovering some of our costs, so we use it, we just roll it forward. So then we get down to, the $250 everybody seems to be confused about, is we make our best guess at what we're going to spend for all the capital in that fund. Now, we know depreciation we don't write a check out for, so we have a shortfall. And because we don't have a revenue source for it, and we don't know ultimately what we're going to collect for connection fees, we have to put a placeholder in there to say if we're going to do these projects, we have to find a way to pay for them. And the way we pay for them is we look to the general fund and say, do we have any money in there? And are we okay with doing that? The other way we can do that is we can say, we have a cash deficit projected of $222,000. We're going to levy an additional $222,000 and transfer it over to that fund as needed. We chose not to do that to keep our levy down, because we're banking on we're going to get some connection
for
charges.
people hooking up, yep.
We're going to get new people hooking up, and if we get some grant money or if we issue a bond for a sewer project, we're going to wrap those things in there. So that's how we try to keep track of it. And then what I try to do is I look at the whole city, and if you look at the last page of your budget sheet that I passed out, I look at, we were planning to spend about $4 million. So my job during the budget is to find out where's the money coming from to pay for it. So I start at the bottom and I say, included in that $4 million, we're planning to issue about $900,000 of new debt that we're going to assess some of it against the property owners. we're going to issue new bonds for the fire truck. We also carried dollars over from last year for projects we did not do. $164,000. We allocated, we said we've got $222,000 that we need to find somewhere to pay for the capital outlay. We've got about $27,000 of cash in the sewer utility fund to pick up the $250 that we're talking about in the sewer fund right here. We already agreed to pay cash out of our reserves for the fire hall. So what do we have left? This generally comes from your levy. So for 2021, about $800,000 of your levy was related directly to capital items. And that's consistent with previous years. It's somewhere between $700,000 and $850,000 depending on the projects. And so I use this to track that and where those dollars are going. So the second item I wanted to just update you on is back on March 8th, I think I sent all of you, here's what our allocation is for the funding, the new funding that came out, the 270 Yusha was talking about. Well, since then, some things have changed. And what had happened is there were a number of cities in Minnesota that on March 24th, we found out they got dropped from the funding package. And nobody really understood which cities those were. So we've been working with the league since then, trying to find out what's our number, how do we get it, and what can we use it for. So Tuesday, you've heard me talk about Gary Carlson before. I've been calling him constantly, saying, Gary, do you have any information for me? No. Do you have any information for me? No. Well, the last time I called, I have some information for you, and that was Tuesday. So the way the dollars will flow, and we'll know this on April 26th, which is next week, is we'll get somewhere around $265,000, plus or minus. They're not entirely sure what it can be used for yet, but they think they have a pretty good idea. So on the 26th, we're supposed to receive some kind of guidance on what it can be used for and when we can spend it. On May 5th, the league is putting together a webinar, seminar, is their current plan, to inform us what we can do with it.
So now they're going to give it to us all in one lump sum?
No, it'll likely come in two pieces, and because our population is below 50,000, we'll get it, we might get it all in one chunk, or we might get it in two pieces over 2 years. But we don't know that yet. So we'll have more information on May 5th. Our money will come from Minnesota Management and Budget, because we're a small city. Larger cities, it'll come directly from the U.S. Treasury. So that's what we know on that. Once we know that, then we can make a decision on what to do with it.
So it's changed since the webinar that they held in March?
Yes.
Because they said it was going to be half of it in May, half of it next year.
They still might do that.
$270,000, and it could be used for sewer.
Yep, but there's no guidance on that. There was no guidance issued back on that, if that was in fact what they would do with it. So that's what'll be clarified, next week, or in the next couple of weeks.
So you mentioned, was it April 26th that we might know more?
That's when the new information is supposed to come out. That's going to be shared from the government. And whether or not that happens, we'll find out next week.
Yeah.
But what the league wants is they want a little bit of time to digest that information and come up with some guidance through the, the folks we deal with, the intergovernmental relations, so they can provide guidance on, can we use it to, buy this? Can we use it to do that? And what's the process to do that? So they're supposed to be talking about that on May 5th, coming up. And then we'll know for sure if in fact something has changed or it didn't change since the first seminar.
So So let me just kind of frame this thing here. Did we get through all of TJ's stuff at the end of the capital thing? Are we? So what I'm thinking is we go through the whole capital deal, and then like we have, and then I'm thinking, and then there's this money coming here that we don't know about yet. And there's been a lot of numbers tossed around here today, but I think that what I would like the staff to do is just summarize what we talked about today, and then we can have another meeting in 3 weeks after they hear about the 270, and then we're going to get some numbers that are concrete, and then we can decide what we want to do with that stuff.
The first part of May where we can,
Is that, then we'll have, because we don't have anything where everybody's making notes and.
well, my notes are all over the board.
Yeah, but I think Shar probably got some of them done, and you can work with the staff. But what I was gonna say about to Ted is, okay, now to what you were saying, Marcia, about using the money for the sewer plant, well, we could do that, but what I'm thinking is we gotta spend some money on engineering for his clarifiers, and maybe we can just spend just that this year, because we want to do the work in Q1 of next year.
But
And that's when we could have this expense come in. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
The
but
bigger expense.
Is that back online and functioning where it will last through the winter or the summer?
I believe so. We've got things fixed and repaired for the immediate future. And everything, as long as we keep an eye on it, everything should function well into the winter.
But maybe if we do get the big ticket for the clarifier in Q1 and take the control cabinets, does it do any good to bond for that kind of deal? Because you're gonna get up, that's almost $1 million for next year.
The other thing you gotta remember is you haven't allocated anything yet for 2022's road projects. So if he's gonna do the design and have all these meetings and informational stuff, we're gonna have to give Bolton and Mink some money to go through all that and do all that for next year's projects.
there was 25,000 in there. I know it doesn't go that far
Yeah,
with the
it's-
engineer, but
I know, but that's
there was.
that's gonna go quick. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just
I
pointing it
agree,
out.
I
Yeah,
agree.
but haven't we engineered most of that stuff to the moon already?
We changed hands.
Yeah.
I thought we shuffled everything from one to the other, though.
Yeah, but
I think we have to, as well as cutting, we have to know where we're going to put it as far as, the seasonal, the 15,000, the additional legal fees. Because I'm thinking another 50,000 in that. There's no way around it.
Well,
So,
Phil's on the line now, isn't he? I thought I saw him.
Before we get too far down that path of what are we gonna do with reallocating stuff? If you remember back at our last council meeting, I showed you this schedule. Said, it's pending final resolution with the auditors. This might help address some of the things you're concerned about. This is what our fund balances look for the ones we've traditionally maintained and tracked every year. This will match with the audit. And really what you're looking at, if you're wanting to designate funds that you already have, you're looking at this number right here, about $6.1 million is what's available to designate that you already have. So this is what'll show up in your audit report, unless you want to do something different than what we've always done.
Well, I think you're short on your fire hall remodeling project. That should be 655,000 or 650,000.
Well, it's actually 989, and that's why I've highlighted these two numbers. When I did that, we had signed contracts for items. And under the accounting rules, we can only restrict stuff if we've got something to back up the contract. Otherwise, the reason they do that is they want to take opportunities away for people to stuff money in pigeonholes and then say, well, I changed my mind and did it later, did something else. So that's why I've got it listed and assigned. So these two numbers right here add up to that 989. we talked about on our budget sheet.
Oh, you don't have fire hall there, you just have capital outlay, right?
I have fire hall remodeling project, 504,000.
No, I mean
And
in
this
the
one's restricted for
restricted,
capital outlay, yeah.
the restricted up
And
there.
that's what those two are. Now, whether we stick with that or not, we'll find out once we get the final numbers from High Tech for those work orders we're still waiting for. So these other projects here, this one you've already addressed tonight, this afternoon, the 56,500, that was in Ted's department. Because remember, those were dollars we carried over from the previous year. And we've got Wildman Ranch Road, that's still sitting in there from previous years. So those were all real numbers, real dollars that were levied in previous years that we used to lower our current year levy, so we wouldn't be levying twice for the same thing. But now, if you're gonna reallocate those, then that's what we just did.
Well, I think we're reallocating in the current budget, not in the balances.
That's correct.
Right, for now, yep.
For now.
Just looking at it.
So
But you're not gonna
Just to be clear.
reallocate this, because 12/31 is done, so when you get, this is what you should approve for the audit,
Yeah.
because this is what
Yeah,
we've traditionally
right.
done.
So this 485,695, that's restricted for capital outlay fire hall. And then you-
Correct,
What?
correct.
And then you have fire hall remodeling project, 504,000.
That's correct.
And you think you're gonna use both of those, 900 and,
Well, yes, I do, and maybe even some more. Like I said, we don't have the numbers from High Tech yet on the final change orders that were done. So if you take those two items, and I'll show you how they track through here. Now, this is right out of the budget. If you add the 485, 695, and 504, 144, that's this number right here. Through March of this year, we're $516,000 into it, and we've got 473 left to go. So we've already accounted for that. We just haven't spent it yet. We know it's coming, but we haven't written the checks.
so they don't have all the pay estimates, or the change orders on the pay estimate
No.
at all?
No,
I don't understand why they can't.
They gotta
Keep
go
that
into,
current.
Yeah.
who's that company? Guardian.
well, the last time we asked them, they said they're waiting for the information from their contractors so they can finish their work to get it done. That was 2 weeks ago. Because remember, we talked about it at the last building meeting we had over there. So that's what we're trying to do, and when we look at that, this is my detail schedule. We looked at last month at council for the fire hall project. We took our best guess at the time. I'm just gonna look at the totals on the bottom. As we said, we're gonna wind up at around $2 million once we're all said and done, based on what we knew at that time. We know that we had about $33,000 or $4,000 in for AV equipment, Chip? 20? Right, but I put the actual number in, that's how we get to the just over 2 million. So now, if we're gonna be 2 million,
That's a
Or 1,800,000.
projected number, right?
Yep.
Yep, that's.
and it's based on the
Yep.
best information we had, and this was item C8 in your council packet last
Yep.
month.
See, I didn't understand how the project budget could change from February 28th to March 30th. How you can change the project budget.
It's a projected budget.
We didn't change it, we just
Projected
updated it as we had new
It went from
information.
20,000 to 33,084.
We had an estimate, and then we put
That's a
the actual
budget.
numbers.
That was the budget figure, so.
Correct, it was a budget figure. And the number, the 3,000 was the actual number for the quote that Chip was looking at.
Well, you should have had 20,000 in there, and then the actual cost of the 33 pending.
We did.
But it's past us, but.
Well, we had both of them in there. We had project budget and then the actual project cost. And I was trying to come up with where do we think we're actually gonna come out? And the best guess I had at the end of last month was about $2 million.
Yeah, that was in the last council packet.
Yep.
I don't have that one with me. So to answer the question about what money are we gonna need for the rest of the year, it sounds like we've got answers from Eric and Chip and Ted, right? And we should finish up TJ.
Yep.
Okay, and then it's really good they jumped on this stuff early in the year. And so then we'll have a summary, maybe Shar can put a summary thing. This is kind of what we think of the budget that we have some extra money for. Then we need to talk to Phil Martin and ask him about engineering for the roads. We're not going to do the roads, but they're going to have to get ready to do the road bids. So that means he's going to have to come in here and do some engineering. You know, I assume, I didn't go through the drive-through, so I don't know what the list is, but we're going to have to go through the same process where we have all these meetings this summer, right? We're still doing all that?
Yes.
And then he'll spend money. So if he can give us a number, then we'll know where we sit and what we can spend on
Legal
whatever
fees and
comes from the
engineering.
staff that's important to do this year.
No.
I don't know
Yes.
what that is.
And then
No.
I do have another question about trails. Who's in charge of trails? Is that Public Works or is that Park and Rec?
Depends what the problem is. If there's a dead animal on the trail, Ted comes and gets it. If it needs to be swept or mowed, then TJ generally takes care of it, depending on where it is.
So why is trails in the Public Works budget and not in Park and Rec?
Because the item in the Public Works budget is if we need to pave it, we combine it with other Public Works projects for paving, because we typically don't have road projects in our
Yeah,
park
but
system.
you can
I see.
allocate
It'd
it.
be like the, what is it, Harbor Lane or something? Is that one that we're talking about? Maybe adding a trail, or just, it was pie in
No,
the
I'm
sky
talking
or
of-
something? Yeah.
But you can have road projects and allocate so much to trails, and it could be in the Park and Rec budget. I was looking for trails, and I just assumed it would be under the Park and Rec, but it's under Public Works. And I'm not quite understanding if TJ's in director over trails, why is it not in the Park and Rec budget?
And the reason we did it that way is because we want to know if we're going to seal coat or patch or pave or trails. We include them in with the road projects.
But you can do that and still
Yeah, you can do it that way too.
allocate it out to Park and Rec.
Yep, you can do that.
I just,
Well, the last time we had one of those was Manhattan Point Boulevard, where you had the road itself, and then we had to finish a third of the trail, so the whole thing was done. So that was all lumped into one big project.
I know, I understand
construction
that.
of,
I'm
right.
talking about,
Maintenance?
yeah, maintenance and it should be under the Park and Rec budget versus Public Works.
Well, the
And
maintenance
you can allocate
the
out.
the maintenance portion of it is not in Public Works. The Public Works portion is the major stuff, not the sweeping, not the ongoing maintenance. The building of a trail is generally done with another road project. We haven't just gone and built a separate trail and paved it. It's always been done with the road project.
Well, I realize it's
Yeah.
done with the road projects, since that's just efficiency costs, but.
I mean, we can-
Cost efficiencies, but.
And if you want to add a line item in parks and Public Works for trail maintenance, we can do that. We can put it in both places. It really doesn't matter.
But then we have to write behind that,
Yep,
I'm being facetious here, sweeping,
yep.
crack filling, snow plowing in the winter. You have to define what it is that you're doing, that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, capital outlay.
So that people don't
trails.
assume, oh, we're gonna, so,
Yeah.
but.
You can
Well, the
break-
maintenance isn't capital outlay.
Yeah,
It's just ongoing maintenance, but.
I think that's something that we should do. It just, put it under Park and Rec, but that's
If I
just my
could make
thought.
a comment about
Sure.
last Tuesday. Phil and Ted put on a really nice program for us out there. And I want to compliment both of them for it, because it was, for me, it was very helpful to sit and look at some of this stuff and get their explanation of what they're looking at. I thought it was an excellent deal. So thank you.
Yeah, one other thing we'll need to do when looking at the capital outlay is we'll need to make sure we account for the engineering money we allocated at our last council meeting to Bolton Mank,
Yeah, for the clarifiers,
you know, for like the 39,350 or whatever it
yeah,
was.
not to
Not to
exceed.
exceed.
Yeah.
40,000?
So that's $40,000 we didn't talk about today.
Yeah.
So,
I think, Ted, no.
Why don't we
I
go,
think if Ted helps Shar out on that, on your budget, where you're taking it from, that's got to be tough for you, just take it off the bottom line for Shar. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
yeah, we'll sit, what I'll do is we'll take all that information and we'll add a line item or column into our spreadsheet, and we'll show what changed and what the new number is.
And send it to us, please.
why don't we go through TJ's stuff here? And then we've gone through, well, we got the library too.
I'm on page 8.
I'm on page 8 of 8.
8 of 8.
You have it, John?
I'm good.
Why do the pages, why do they say 8 of 8, 9 of 9? Why don't they say 8 of 15, 9 of 15?
Yep,
Oh, Excel, I'm sorry.
that's a bad macro,
Oh, yeah.
So first one here.
but we all know
replace-
what page we're on, so that's good.
Yep, 8 of 8.
Replace computers. I want to get a computer down in the guy's shop. Currently, when they look up parts or do training, they come up and use my office computer, and it takes me away from my work. So they used to have internet down there. It's all, the wires all ran. They have a really old computer that really wouldn't make sense to use when we do get it hooked up, so we want to get that replaced. Irrigation pumps and related. Last year, we had that in the CapEx for 2020. We moved that over to 2021. You guys agreed
To do it.
to do it for 8,500.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to move that down to that 8,500 because I got wind from the guy who's putting it in that the storm down in Texas, all the polyurethane in the machines locked up in the machines when the storm hit. So I don't know what that did to the prices of irrigation. If we want to stick to that 8,500, we might have to minimize our zones by 1 or 2. So I don't know if we want to make a decision on that now or wait till I get
So
some
you're
more info from
saying
him.
you had 10,000 in the budget and the bid was 8,500?
The bid was
but it's
85, and you
might
guys-
go up?
It could be. I don't see it going up that much.
I think that's the best time for us to deal
Yes,
with it.
I agree.
Pipe pricing just about doubled.
Okay.
So we can't touch that.
South Bay Park, that has yet to be, that's still coming down the road here. It's part of phase 1. The HVAC replacement, you guys approved that. Instead of doing the 3, we did the 2 units, and that came out at 15.4. So we could subtract the 15.4 from that and use that elsewhere if you'd guys like.
So some
Unless you
money.
want to move that into next year's 2022 for another HVAC.
You might need it for irrigation, though?
You could use some of it, yeah.
Could, depends on what it comes back at. The cameras, you guys also approved that one. Let me get to that. That one came out at 11,513 and 75 cents.
Nothing there.
Gas line, that came in just over 10, and we used some remaining funds from that truck. Oh, I skipped the truck. The truck, we're sitting at 10,35.2, and that is after we purchased the plow. Everything is good to go for that truck, so that is excess.
You
Because we
spent-
did use those CARES Act for that truck.
That 10,000 is excess?
Correct,
How'd you do that? You're a master. Oh, you use the CARES Act, okay.
correct.
So there's some money there.
Yep.
that's available, 10,352.
And that was a timing issue. You got it right at the end of the year,
Yeah, that was
right after we did the budget.
And this
that was tough.
24 minus 50, well, are you gonna roll the rest of that over?
Of what? The truck?
No, your furnaces, you had 24 in there and you spent 15,4. Now,
Well-
isn't this, Marcia, what you're talking about with the, we levied this, 24.
Yes,
He spent 15,4, so he needs to have some money set aside that it's our, if we
Yeah, I
don't leave
thought-
it there, it's gonna be,
I thought that's where some of that wage was gonna come from, but, you know,
well, we.
whatever
we don't
they
know yet.
figure out, but it should be budgeted 15.8, 15, I forgot what the bid was.
15.4 for the two.
15.4.
15,4.
So if you change that, just, you know, if you need a little extra, I don't know, 16,000 in there for the HVAC?
And we have to remember, we still have 7 units that are 24 years old. So that money could be either put in 2022 or used elsewhere. It's up to you. Because we do have to replace those other ones in the years to come.
But you'll request that in the 2022, 23, 24, 25
Right.
budgets.
And what
right?
Mike was saying, my budget does, whatever we don't use goes over to the 2022, 2023. So we could use that and go over into 2022, and I don't really have to make any special requests because we already have that funding.
But for this year, you could take,
Correct.
to what Marcia said, you could use, it's about $9,000 you got left. You could use it plus the cemetery, 5,000 to pay for that employee.
Yeah, and that
And then
employee,
we'll just stick another 15 in your budget for next year?
we don't have to hit the 15. I did some rough numbers. I mean, if we only hire this seasonal employee for 100 days rather than the 120, what's the cutoff? 22 weeks. If we do $13, $14 an hour, we could be 10, 11,000 rather than 15. So we don't have to be sitting at that 15.
Yeah, so maybe use that for
Better
paying for
safe
the
than
employee,
sorry.
whatever's
Right,
left.
right.
Well, whatever they come up with, if they come up with 10,
Right.
11,000, you know.
Part-time employee, okay, all right.
The tractor loader that is already ordered and on its way, you guys already approved that one.
Yep, not touch.
The gas line, obviously, we talked about.
Yep. Nothing on it,
9,
nothing there.
nothing there. So that's it for the Parks and Rec. Skip over to the library. The shade feature is by the patio garden. Right now, it's more of a fabric material for the shade feature, and it does come down in the winter. It's super frail, it gets moss all over it, and we were possibly looking at something more permanent for that, so we don't have to take it down. We don't have to replace it every few years. We can go down the avenue of just keeping what we have and replacing it, which would be a lower cost, or putting something more permanent in. Or we could take that out and I can go after a grant or other funding to replace those features, or the shade feature. And it's not replacing the whole shade feature itself, it's just the awning section.
So yeah, you're saying you haven't really moved ahead with all seriousness, okay, on that one.
I looked at it as maybe a good decision to put something more permanent in, so we don't have to go back every few years to spend $1,000 on replacing the fabric, but I'm open to replacing the fabric now and maybe doing something more permanent down the future, down the road, or looking for grants or other sources of funding. So if we're gonna go with the fabric, we can move it down to 1,500, 2,000, or just take it out and have me look elsewhere for funding.
I would say if we need to, fabric, right?
We have fabric
How
right
long
now.
does that last? How many years?
Depends on how harsh the summers are. The sun beats down it all summer long, and
Like
then,
some umbrella
well,
stuff?
even the heavy winds that we got the past few years, it just pretty much destroyed some of them. We had to repair some of them. I can come back with a recommendation, a more firm number.
Yeah, maybe,
You guys like
otherwise
that?
we're just gonna be winging it.
I know.
That's bad.
You already have fabric for it?
Mm-hmm.
Why why don't you use it up, and when you run out of that, we can look at it.
Oh, no, the fabric is up there right now. We don't have new fabric. That's just what we have right now.
Maybe you could find out when it went up and how long it's been there and how much it cost to replace it. Maybe that's an easier way to go.
You can do that.
That's about all you have, isn't it?
That's about it.
So then we get into the big buck stuff, huh?
How much was it? Because
He doesn't know yet, I don't think.
Well, the HVAC, what we talked about, was the
well, that HVAC
15.4.
was about 80 something.
Everything else is pretty much done. I mean,
got-
irrigation's going in, HVAC's going in, cameras are going in, truck and plows we already have that.
He has the 10,352 that's shown on there from the truck,
Yep,
and that's about it,
that's about it.
unless,
I thought there was stuff in the HVAC. There was about, what was it left
We
over?
were changing it to
Nine.
15.4.
Yeah.
It was 24.
Yeah, but that leaves you with about 4,600.
oh, it's more than that,
Yeah, it's more than that.
9,000 something.
9,000.
He could use that for that guy, the part-time employee to mow this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm fine with
I mean,
that.
that's an option, I'm not,
No, I'm fine with that.
I'm just suggesting, that's all, you know, and then
So
he,
we're looking at about 10,000 in round numbers from Park and Rec.
but if we did that, you'd have to put some money in your budget for next year if you're gonna do more furnaces,
Correct.
because we spent your money. Okay,
Okay.
so let's, on this last page then,
Library. I don't think we got much there to be.
That's the one we already went through.
yeah, the second item was maybe the only one, 4,000. He's gonna look at the
And the
awning
software,
material and see.
the software, we're looking at getting a new, right now we have Follett, and it's pretty outdated. Jane was working on inventory, obviously COVID happened, and that kind of pushed back the inventory process. But we are still looking into getting a more updated software for the library.
Look at it, but I don't see $7,500. He doesn't have much to draw from.
No, you're right, Aaron, you're right.
Okay.
And then we get into Ted, and I had my talk with him, and he's working with the engineers to spend some, but the bulk of the work would come in Q1, right? And I don't know if we could get by eking out, not paying anybody for anything until January. And just put all the money next year.
And then I think that the council's got to be budgeting in the general fund for, if you approve the sewer fund budget, that's so confusing for everybody. You have a sewer fund budget of 150,000 or 200,000. You got nothing to back it up. In the general fund, if you're gonna do that project, you have to budget and levy for it, so it should show up in the general fund, so that we can, if you approve 150,000 in the sewer fund, you need to have it where you're levying it in the general, so it's levied for. And if you're not gonna levy for it, then don't have a sewer capital outlay fund. There's no point, because you got nothing to back it up unless you're taking it out of reserves.
Or you bond,
What?
or bond.
Yeah, or bond, yeah, exactly. But if you're not gonna bond for the project, you need to put it in your general fund, because everybody thinks that was levied for, and it's not, unless it's in the general.
Yeah.
That's what was so confusing for everybody at the last go-around at the budget meeting. They all thought they had monies for the sewer fund, and not.
Can we bond for his work next year if he does those two, 400 and 500,000, that's 900. Million, there you go, $1 million.
You can do that. I mean, you really need to take a look at how you want to pay for it. Because if we're going to start spending money for a project, we need to get a reimbursement resolution in place, and we need to have an understanding of how much the total project's going to cost. Because you've got some money to put towards it, potentially, And then, we would handle it just like we did the fire truck. We would say, well, we're going to do this project for $1 million. We're going to have 200,000 of our own money. We're going to have 800,000 of new money, which is bonding. And we think we're going to do it at this point in time. And then we have a pretty hard cost figure that we can bid off of. Now, the engineering, you don't need a reimbursement resolution for bonding purposes, but you do when you start paying contractors and construction costs.
Right.
You want to know what those numbers are. I'd come back to you with, well, we think we're going to need $800,000 for this project, and we'd like to issue a GO revenue bond to reimburse ourselves for that. And then when it comes time to do that, we'd go ahead and issue the bonds. And I mean, you've got a time frame to do that, just like we did for the fire truck. Now, that one actually worked good because we just approved the bill for it, and we'll close on the bonds on the 26th this month.
So the engineering this year, Bolton and Mink for the streets, and we bond for that project next year, you can roll those engineering fees into that bond issue.
We can, depends on what it is. We have to be very careful how we do that.
Yeah, so that makes a difference too in looking at the big picture.
It makes a difference on how you handle the transaction and what you're actually doing. And that's why it's really important to understand what you're planning to spend so you can back it up with whether you're going to pay for it for levy, existing funds, or however you're going to do that.
Well, we've already, my opinion is we've already turned Ted loose on the clarifiers. He's spending time, so that's a goal project in my world, and it's needed. And the control cabinets are in the same world of, they're old, and the best deal is to do them all at one time.
Yep.
I don't think, we don't want to piecemeal those, and those two would fit for what we're doing. And I understand what he's saying. One is maybe $500,000 and one is what, 400 or something, plus engineering. The only thing we don't know for sure is the same thing when we went through the upgrade to the sewer plant. Remember when we did that and we were said, oh yeah, it'll be $1.6 million. And then when the bids came through,
They were much different.
it was 2.3, and then I don't know how that is, how you handle that with the paperwork ahead of time when you know what I mean? You have to guess better or raise the number high enough when you start.
Well, that came in on the electrical, because remember,
Yeah,
Ted knows more about that, but partway through the electrical side of that, there were some issues with the designer. He apparently had passed away during
somebody
the
passed away. yeah.
process,
Yeah,
and that created some problems for it, and then the bids came in higher than what were anticipated, so.
Not everything was accounted for when, in the process because of that person passing away, so.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but we have to just keep that in mind that, they'll design something, but you don't know how contractors are gonna bid.
Depends how hungry they are.
Yep.
What time of year you do
I
it.
see Phil Martin is on. If we have good hard numbers on what we're going to do and we do a go or no go for a project, well, that's the time to pass the resolution and start getting the paperwork in place and start talking to the bonding company and say, hey, we're going to do this project on this date, and then you can get prepared for it.
But you and Ted are gonna have to keep us on time, so we get these bids in early enough. Phil talked about that Tuesday, you talked about it. We have to be kept on schedule to get our meetings done, so that we get our bids in it when we should have them out there.
When we bid the project.
Our request for that, I should say.
Yep, I agree.
The trails, you had 19,000 last year in trails for capital outlay and never used it.
I do not remember why we had it in there and what we were gonna use it for.
So
I
it
just
was
don't
not
remember, sure.
you did not expend it, so how did you handle that one, as well as Park and Rec budget had a balance, didn't it? Because of the insurance thing and all that.
Well, what we did with Ted's capital outlay budget is we looked at his entire, because we didn't do amendments during the year.
This is, you don't have this, no.
We
this
looked
is
at his
last
whole
year.
budget and said, how much did you spend for capital outlay and where did it come from? We talked about that last October and again in November of last year. And he was actually over budget because of the acquisition of the plow truck. We pulled the plow truck in.
Yeah, we were pulling that from different equipment in his.
Right, but we were still over budget overall for capital outlay and public works. And so we had already accounted for those amounts at that
Okay.
time. So there isn't an extra $19,000 is what I'm saying.
What about Park and Rec, though? Park and Rec was over.
And again, Park and Rec, how it's been handled in the past and for quite some time, is the capital part of their budget rolls over each year into one of the assigned for capital outlay.
So can't we, so the whole thing there is that the trails aren't in Park and Rec?
The construction, no.
Yeah.
The
So
maintenance.
if we're
is
looking
involved.
at, we didn't get that grant, if we're looking at trails and we want to do it, the trails should be in Park and Rec so that we can tap into those funds that were not expended.
What grant are you referring to?
Well, this last one that we were just
2022.
denied.
We didn't get that one, so,
That's
I
what
know,
you
I
said.
said,
yeah.
we didn't get it, so we should start looking at, you know, how we're gonna do this.
Those dollars were not in the budget, because that was for 2025.
I realize that, I'm talking about planning for those trails.
Correct. For that same project, we'll have another opportunity to look at that once we know how much funding is available later this fall.
How much did we give up when they did approve our project the year before, last year?
Sorry,
Whatever.
how much did we give up?
Which trail?
Yeah, we got it approved, or
Well, we
they
didn't-
approved the project,
They,
and then we
Said
didn't
no.
take it.
Said no.
Well, that's when you and Tim Gray talked, that it was,
right.
yeah.
There was
The
about,
best info you had.
250,000 or what
it was
was
around
it?
$250,000. And the reason that wasn't accepted, at the time, the county was not willing to kick in their share. It was about a $750,000 project, and it was premised on we'd get full funding for it. Neither party was real eager to make up the difference on that.
But you understand where I'm coming from, is putting the trails in Park and Rec, because then we'd have those funds that have been carried over, I forgot what it is now.
And that's a policy decision for the council. If they want to do that, we can certainly do that. You can budget separately for it, and, but when it comes to the end of the day, you know, we still have to look at the big picture and see how we're coming out overall. If we need to take money from parks and put it into police, or from police and put it in fire, or remove something from fire to public works.
Yeah. So Shar, do you think you could summarize this stuff? Perfect, and then, do we have to talk to Phil Martin about roads?
I would suggest
And
that
then,
we do.
and then we look at what we're, you know, do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying here?
Yep.
Because the roads are gonna be part of the, where's the money gonna go? Because we don't,
Yeah, exactly.
we didn't plan this road change for this year.
Ted, don't you think Phil's gonna come back to something with us? On that?
You could have a front row seat, Ted.
It's good for you, Ted.
I need the exercise. Phil and I talked this morning. We were just not sure in which direction. I think after our meeting out on Whitefish and that, we know we need to adjust our plan from last year to more chip sealing than probably reconstruction. And I think Phil and I can have something for Public Works, this coming Public Works meeting, and then have something to come to the council right after that.
Good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
With, as long
That'd
as
be
we're
good, yeah.
understanding we're still going with the same roads as we had planned.
Whatever that summary is, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to have just a special meeting just to talk that?
If you so, I mean.
Not do it at the council meeting, it just,
No,
well,
but we could do it at Public Works.
On the first, whatever it is, Monday.
Then they make
The
the
joint council
recommendation.
meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, yeah. And then when that's done, then we can get together again with the,
You'll have the other,
where do
you'll
we
have the
sit with
other
the
idea
bank
where the other
account?
money
That's
is.
kind of what
so-
we're trying to do here, so.
I also think we need to break some of these meetings down. Today, we really focused on excess money.
Right.
And I like that because it's small, we're not everywhere.
Right, yeah, yeah,
So I would like to see them broken down a little.
yeah, yeah.
If I could add one thing before we go too far, I see the Crow Wing County ran their sales tax thing out to 2040. They were
Yes.
approved to extend to 2040, something like that.
That's correct.
Have we heard anything on ours?
I did talk to Gary Carlson yesterday, and we have two issues. One is, now on the House side of things, we did the presentation back in March, and, made our case, or rebooted our case from last year. So spent quite a bit of time with the House Tax Committee on that. They did not lay our bill over. The House Tax Committee chairperson's view of infrastructure projects was, if I can't go to it and visit it, then it's got to be an above-ground item. His view was it's not for water or sewer or utilities. The Senate has a different view. Our bill was laid over in the Senate, and it is in the current tax bill as of yesterday. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, the Tax Committee will be doing their first preliminary review on whether or not they're going to push that bill up for a vote. Our request is included in the Senate side of the tax bill. Now, late this afternoon, the chair's mark came out, and what that means is the bill was marked by the chair, and it's ready for discussion, and they're going to talk about it tomorrow morning. Why is that important? Because the House tax chair is purporting, I'm all for local control. These decisions should be local, but that's exactly what they took away from us on the House. The Senate's view of that is these decisions should be local, and it's included in the bill. So what we're hoping for at this point is that the Senate includes our request in the Senate side of the tax bill. Then the Senate and the House get together and say, well, these are different. And the Senate will say, well, we want this. We think there should be local control. And the House will have a pretty hard argument to say no. And that would be one of the reconciling items when they come to agreement on voting on the bill at some point in the future. So that's where we're at as
Cross
of
our fingers.
today.
So we're halfway there. It's about, what about?
I don't think we're quite halfway there because it's not in both bills right now.
Okay,
So,
that's my question.
yep.
I have one thing.
I have nothing, thanks, good meeting.
Thank you to the employees, their willingness to help
Oh, yeah,
us in
yeah, this is good.
reallocating the
Tell us.
budget figures, and appreciate it. And it's a struggle, and it's wonderful that we had such great participation from the employees.
I do have one more thing. The irrigation, the 85 versus what's the 10 in my budget. Say if he comes back and says it's 92. Can I move forward with that, or should I come back and get it approved?
I thought we approved you to do this.
You approved the 8,500, but the 10's in there right now, and I wanted to leave that 10 in there. I'm just saying, if it's under 10, should we
I think
move?
you should move forward with it, and the budget reallocation figures
Okay.
should take
Catch
that
up
into
with that. You'll catch
consideration.
up. You'll have to count for that out of something else.
Okay, yeah,
I mean,
okay.
if it's under 10, move forward.
That's kind of what I was
I'm-
thinking,
yeah, I'm
just so I
okay
don't have
with
to
that,
push
yeah.
this down the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a
Thank you.
motion, Dave?
If it's $2 over,
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's $2 over, I'll give you the $2.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Dave
Hi,
Nevin.
John.
Dave Schrupp. John Andrews.
Yes.
Marcia Siebert-Wills.
Yes.
Aaron Herzog. Motion carried.
We are adjourned.